dead all have in common is a body. And these bodies, the dead, I think, can teach us. The dead encourage us, through our identification with their life story, to take a different vantage point. Dead bodies are meaningful not in themselves, but through culturally established relations to death and the way in which each culture construes a specific dead person's importance. The dead affect our relationship with territorial borders, shape our understandings of nationalism, and affect our own self-image. Even the life of a dead person with whom I cannot identify fully might still conjure up within me, within us, questions of sometimes profound proportions. Who am I really? What do I live for? What might my death feel like? How will I be remembered? In the words of the Scottish poet Edwin Muir, as I look back on the mystery which is my own life, my own fable, what I am most aware of is that we receive more than we can ever give. We receive it from the past, on which we draw with every breath, but also from the source of the mystery itself. Our lives are tied up with the actions of the now dead. The dead become symbols for what we think is important. They do not talk much on their own, though at one time they did, but we can and do thrust upon them the words we would like them to have said, quoting the dead to our own means, out of their original context, quite literally rewriting history through them and the symbols we want to make out of them. Of course, for human beings, death is always a cosmic issue. It brings us face to face with the ultimate questions of what it means to live, and indeed to stop living. Reordering our meaningful universe and taking away legitimacy from the myths we tell ourselves. And so for this reason, the dead lend themselves particularly well to politics in times of social, political, and cultural upheaval. Just when we comfortably assume that history flatters us, bodies from the past raise their voice, reminding us of the deep truths about ourselves which we might otherwise avoid. That we are, all of us, many things, longing to be eulogized in a way which gives the mystery that we are some coherence. It is hard not to see, therefore, our current conversations or even arguments around statues, monuments, cultural artifacts, reparations and repatriation as anything other than lessons to our time from those long dead. The politics of the dead reminds us in a real way that history is never truly past, but presently, persistently shaping our present and indeed our shared future. That though we all die, we do not all fall silent. Think, for example, of Aberfan, of Hillsborough, of Grenfell, of Afghanistan, of Stephen Lawrence, or more recently the death of George Floyd, Sarah Everard, Bieber and Nicole Smallman, and Father Alan Griffin. In so many cases, as T.S. Eliot said, we had the experience, but we missed the meaning, discovering that time the destroyer is time the preserver. Political transformation, then, has to be more than a technical process. It is a transformation that demands that we do something good and true, courageous and just in and with our bodies and our lives. The dead who die in tragedy show us who we really are. The death of the saints shows us what and who we can be. And because I am not a politician or a philosopher, let me close in the only way a preacher of the gospel can. One of the scariest things the church reminds us of in this feast of All Saints is this: we, all of us, like the saints, can be like Jesus Christ. The Church's belief in her saints, a message that holiness is possible, is a deeply political and a profoundly theological message. For it tells us that there is an alternative to the death-dealing forces of sin which break apart human peace and wreak havoc wherever love might otherwise reign. To say that sanctity is possible is to say that we have the world, the systems, the conditions that we have settled for, that the opposite of holiness at its worst is a choice. The dead remind us that the choices we make will follow us to the end of time and touch every generation that comes after us. The saints summon us to respond to the vocation of each of us, which is to be holy, to become friends of God, to allow Christ and his message to dominate in every area of our lives, to be inspired by the cruciform love of God, so that in death we will find ourselves with the dead who have gone before us in the faith, to have surrendered our wills into that great love which I and many throughout history call God.